Hello, everyone. I'm Marty Janeski, and today is September 23rd, 2020. We're on Local Sports Wrap Up. I have a new partner today, somebody else trying out for the gig. His name's George Purdu. Me and George go way back to coaching bowling together, and when my son bowled for him, we communicated. So, George, I know you've been under cameras being interviewed before. Now it's your turn. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm pretty excited. I know we've known each other for a long time. Last few years, we've been involved with bowling at the high school level, and you've done a great job with the girls teams for a number of years now, going back to when you were working with Vic Hagan on it, and I've done the boys before, coached the boys this past year, and done a bunch of other sports for the district. But excited to be here to talk about what's been going on in local sports.
Yeah, that bowling thing that you dropped in my lap there a couple of years ago, I wasn't quite ready to have to fill out all the paperwork and make sure they got their physicals and all that fun stuff that went with it. But it did, now I know, now I know what I'm up against every year. And, but I wasn't ready, but, it doesn't affect the girls bowling at all because they don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure how we're going to do bowling. Any suggestions?
Yeah, and just the hard work kind of paid off this past year when you guys won the first ever league title in school history, and that's huge. It's great for the program, great for the girls. I know they worked hard. I still remember watching you guys bowl that last game against Woodhaven. I think you guys were down after the Baker games, came back to win, and I know the girls were really excited about that and are looking forward to build. And we were just talking about, obviously, with everything going on, how it's going to affect the season, which obviously the MHSA is working more on football and these other sports, and eventually going to tackle bowling, and we'll see kind of how it goes. But we kind of said, those days of maybe all those schools meeting at one time in the bowling alley might be a thing of the past coming up this year.
I think that's the route, because that's the route they're taking with cross country. That's the route they're taking with some of the other stuff. And I do think that just like maybe you would get 4 schools in there, but that would be it. You're not getting 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And then all the JV that go with it. So I think 2 schools in a bowling center, 5 days a week somehow. Yeah, that's probably the logistical way out.
Yeah, and scheduling wise too. I mean, I know for the athletic directors, they get together, and you're at the mercy of, bowling is the one sport where you can't do it on site, so you're at the mercy of what the proprietor has at the bowling alley as far as scheduling goes. And I know that's always been a big issue, and now if they downsize and can't have all the schools there, I mean, we've had to, bowl early, bowl later, alternate days, bowl, 2 or 3 days in a row just to be able to fit in the schedule. I can imagine what it's going to be like now with, their capacity and all those different things. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the schedule for that coming up here.
I'd be all for, like, if the leagues are shrinking and they have extra lanes in the evening, I'm all about bowling at about 7 o'clock like they do a volleyball match. I'd be all for that. Then I wouldn't have to find a way out of work every day. You know?
And you wouldn't have the teachers complaining about kids leaving early, because we have to get them out at like 2 o'clock for meets that start at 3, So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here in the next month or so as they start looking at those schedules.
So it was a big week. Football kicked off here last Friday and some games on Saturday. Wyandotte Roosevelt went down to Woodhaven, and I don't want to say slapped them, but 17-7. Anytime you beat Woodhaven, you're doing something right in any sport. So, George, you know a lot about, well, you hang around the football team. You do the announcing from the press box during the games. Obviously, they didn't go down there not expecting to win. But Woodhaven was 10-1 last year. We were 9-3,
7-2 in league play last year, and then lost in the first playoff game. So 7-3 overall last year for the Bears. But and that's the thing. Woodhaven was league champs last year. I mean, so that's something that when you look at going down there, first game, had to be a roller coaster for these football players and the coaches. I know I talked to Coach Adams, and we worked together at the high school, and first you're going at it for a couple weeks of practice. Then you're shut down. You're thinking, okay, we're getting ready for the spring. How are we going to get ready for that? And then all of a sudden we're back. And you got a week and a half to kind of prepare for it. And it was, I know, talking to him and Coach Flipiak's another one of the coaches. He's right next door to me. We talk every morning. And he's telling me, Woodhaven has 58 players, and they've got a lot of returners coming back from the previous year. So, I guess you can maybe call. I mean, obviously going down there, you can call it an upset. I mean, they were league champs, and when you look at kind of how the game played out, you definitely have to look at the defense. Carried the Bears in this game for sure.
Yeah, because we got an interception early, went up 7-0. That I know, and then later on they tied it up, 7-7 after somewhere in the middle of the first half.
Yeah, and the one thing too about that, and this is the interesting thing about that interception, Jalen Pitchford, the quarterback, who, Coach Adams never usually has his quarterback playing defense, but because of kind of how stretched out they are with players this year, he had to have Jalen playing defense. And, and I saw Jalen's interview after the game, and he said, being the quarterback kind of helped on the play that he caught the interception on, because he kind of dropped back into coverage, caught the ball after the quarterback threw it, took it 61 yards, and I watched the play on it. He kind of, weaved through some Warrior defenders to get to it, and that's huge. Anytime you get a pick six, for yourself, because you're not really sure. You got to figure there were no scrimmages, no four-ways, no passing leagues during the summer. So it's almost like an exhibition preseason game for a lot of these players, and to go up like that, early on definitely helped the Bears.
38 total kids, and then as for the JV, Woodhaven slapped us pretty good.
Yeah, and I was at that game, and that was a 27-7. My nephew plays for the JV team, and I know the freshmen won. The freshmen won a hard-fought game, and I watched a JV game, and they ran the ball pretty well on us. And not that that's an indication of what you're going to see for the varsity, but it's the same type of offense. They run the same type of plays. So winning the JV's winning 27-7, going down there, you kind of had to figure that it was going to be a rough go at it. But the Bears hung tough, and really the defense. And when I talked to Coach Adams for a little bit today, and he said, we made a goal line stand. We stopped them in that first half after we scored. We were able to knock it in at the end of the first half with a McGraw 1-yard touchdown run, and then we kicked a field goal in the second half to really kind of make it go up by 2 scores. And the defense held on.
Yeah, because after we scored at 7-0, they took the next kickoff down inside our 5, but there were penalties, and it pushed the ball back, and we kept them out from there. That's you got your quarterback playing defense. I hear the backup quarterback went down.
Yeah, Donovan Canterbury broke his wrist in the game, and I know that he's going to be out for a while. I'm not sure as far as his availability to come back this season, but I know that's a loss for them. But that's one of the things that they have to kind of adjust, and we'll kind of see what happens as far as it's kind of interesting that Coach Adams usually doesn't have any quarterbacks playing defense, and he had both his quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks were playing defense in this game.
Both had a pick.
Yeah, and so that was the one thing that you have that mentality, like Jalen said, when you're a quarterback, you can understand what the quarterback on the other side is doing, and obviously it helped him out. But and when Woodhaven scored, they scored on a 33-yard touchdown pass to Stepaniak, and Stepaniak is one of their another football player that Woodhaven has to tie the score up at 7-7 before McGraw scored at the end of the first half. So, but big win. I mean, big win for Wyandotte. I mean, it's going to be odd because you're not going to see every team this year, only playing those 6 games. And for example, a lot of these schools are going to have teams out of league. Like Lincoln Park played Berkeley this week. Southgate's playing an out of league team. We're not. That doesn't happen to us because that would have been the first game of the season. But we're going to still see some of those powerhouses, Allen Park and Carlson, still coming up here.
And they took the season started in week 4. And so we would have caught Woodhaven in week 4. We probably would have caught some other teams. That would have meant they were more fine-tuned and we were more fine-tuned. But again, 38 players is scary just because. That's 22 are out there and you got people doubling up. What happens if your quarterback gets hurt on defense? Now, kid broke his wrist, the hockey player would go right back out there. He'd wrap it up and he'd be out there. Just kidding. Allen Park had a good day. They won 29-7 over Trenton. Gibraltar Carlson, always tough. They beat Taylor 45-6. And Southgate Anderson beat Edsel Ford 20-14. That's all of the Downriver League results. New Boston Huron beat Carleton 34-14. Grosville beat Monroe Jefferson 35-14. Flat Rock got slapped by Milan. Milan?
Milan.
It's Milan in Italy. River Rouge, big rivalry there with Ecorse. 53-0 though. Rouge took care of them. They're going on another, run for a state title, so they're not going to hold back anything. And that's about all the local teams that matter. Gabriel Richard beat Liggett 61-27. Garden City beat Melvindale 14-7. Yeah, and Berkeley, there's the last one. Berkeley beat Lincoln Park 20-6.
Yeah, and that's who Wyandotte has this week. First home game is going to be against Lincoln Park. And so, I mean, I've seen a little bit of, and that's the other thing too, they didn't really see any film on these guys before last week either.
Correct.
So, they'll have a little bit, and Lincoln Park's coming to Jim Johnson Field this Friday. First home game, which is going to be different. It was kind of weird when I went to the JV game because they're only allowing 2 tickets per player for if you're a cheerleader or a football player. So it was kind of odd not seeing kids there, because there's no real, kids can't really go inside there. The band, from my understanding, won't be there for the game on Friday either. And I guess they're going to have like some sort of like video thing for the band that's going to be playing, but the band will not actually be there. So
Interesting.
It's going to be odd. It was definitely different. It was quiet. You didn't really get that feel like there was a game going on, but that's going to be, for the foreseeable future, all the games that are going to be happening.
That's interesting. I bet the NFL same way. They're saying now they don't have to shout over anything to call signals at the line. And then the other team can hear their signals at the line because it's so quiet.
Yeah, except for that crowd noise they're pumping in, which kind of is
Isn't
annoying.
loud enough.
It's when you're watching at home, you're like, okay, they can tone it down a little bit because it kind of is a little bit overwhelming, some of the crowd noise they're pumping into these stadiums.
How about them Lions, huh? Oh, you're a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
So, all right, you Steelers. Hey, I picked your Steelers in the suicide pool this week. So
they almost lost it though for
you. They came on the game because it was a late, finish,
yeah.
And they were, who was it?
Denver
was marching down the field there on the 22-yard line, 3rd and 2, and then they didn't make it, 4th and 2,
right.
Got sacked, and then Steelers got the ball and ran out the clock.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now, I was sweating.
Yeah, so was I, and I was with one of my buddies, Brett Green, who's a big Denver fan. So he was like, "Oh, here we go," and I'm like, "Okay." I was being really superstitious about it because, when it gets really close like that towards the end. But we'll see. We'll see what happens early in the NFL season to kind of, so a lot of teams look good early on. We'll see what happens as things go.
I know the picks this week. I was looking over it yesterday. I just don't know who to continue my suicide run on. I like to pick home teams. Some of the home teams have some tough competition, like New Orleans. I like New Orleans, but Green Bay's going down there. Yeah. You can't touch that game.
No. The way both those teams have kind of looked early on, you just don't know. And some of these 2-0 teams, are they for real? Are the Raiders? They looked really good on Monday night. Are they going to be a for real team? So I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens. But it's nice to have this back, though. I mean, it's nice to have, seeing some of these events. I know, especially at this level, the local level, the kids love it. They're being involved, and and we just found out yesterday kids are going to start coming back to school October 16th. Wow. So we're going to start having kids at school like on a hybrid basis here in Wyandotte. So I'm not saying it's we're everything's normal, but at least some of the stuff that the kids are experiencing or had experienced before in the past are going to be happening.
Well, wear your mask, stop the spread. I'm just going to say that I can make everybody a nice custom mask that will match their outfit. That's going to be a fashion accessory. So just come see me, and I'll make you a yellow one for that yellow shirt you're wearing, and I'll make you a red one for the red shirt you're wearing, and it'll all be good. Michigan High School Athletic Association has announced changes to Lower Peninsula boys tennis and girls golf state finals over the last week. Changes are being made in hopes to reduce the spread of COVID. In tennis, and this is interesting, the format will match full teams in head-to-head competition. The format switch will limit the number of teams playing together at a single site. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but regionals are such to where they might have, or districts start first. They would have 4 teams battle, and you'd have to get out of the district. Now they're just going to my team's going to play your team here, and they're going to play their team there, and
Right.
then those two winners will come.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's similar to what you're going to see like in football. The fact that like every team makes the playoffs this year, so you're going to see like all those downriver schools probably, depending on their ranking or how they finish the season, play against each other in that type of format. Then it might be the winner from the downriver goes against the river, the winner of Huron or another, division. So it's going to be kind of interesting kind of how that works out. But all the schools are in for football, which will be interesting. But I know that they're, it's going to be different kind of how the regionals and finals work.
The tennis postseason will begin with team districts October 7th through the 10th, and there'll be one-day tournaments. They'll play whoever, and then you'll play again. You might play a couple times in a single day. That's possible, I guess. Not if you're only putting two teams in one spot. That wouldn't be possible. And districts will be the following weekend. And just going to be interesting how all that's going to play out. And the golf is really changing.
Yeah, I mean, so golf, instead of doing a 2-day 36-hole format, they're doing a 1-day 18-hole round format, and basically it's to eliminate kids from having to stay on for more than 1 day in a hotel for that purpose, because they do have to travel for a lot of those. And the postseason is going to begin basically October 5th through the 10th. 6 regionals in each division with 10 to 13 teams. And it's basically going to kind of fall in line with their regular postseason format. But basically, it's going to be just the top 2 teams and the top 2 individuals, not in a qualifying team, will advance to the state finals in each division. So that's basically one fewer team and individual per regional in order to basically keep it to 72 golfers.
Yeah, because I thought there was always 3 that snuck into the singles and
Right.
then went to thing. Like in bowling, it's 10, but you also have, teams from all around. 18 teams sometimes are presented at your regional, because we don't do districts. But the golf is interesting because 36 holes gives you an opportunity. You miss a couple of short putts, the next day you can come back and win it. You might be the best player in the state of Michigan, and there is one girl that is just overall the best player in the state. And if she has a couple of bad drives, she don't win. Because the next day, 2-day format, the longer you play and the longer you do anything, the cream rises to the top. When they do end up playing, though, all the finals will be at Michigan State. Forest Acres East and Forest Acres West. 2 nice tracks. Division 1 and 2 will play Division 1 will play at East, Division 2 will play West, and then the following weekend, Division 3 will play East, and Division 4 will play West. Interesting tracks, great track. In October, weather will be fine. But it's nice out right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was. I just came back. We had our first middle school cross country meet, and it was pretty warm. I mean, for running, this upper 70s, low 80s is kind of too warm for kids to be running in. Even though the weather's gorgeous outside, I'll take it in September any day. But it definitely is something that can play a little bit into how some of these athletes are probably handling it. The weather, and it's supposed to be pretty warm on Friday too. So for some of these football games that are going to be taking place on Friday, I guess they're kind of used to it because usually the games start in August and it's pretty warm outside. So it probably won't be too big of a deal for these kids. But I mean, I guess one of the things too, when I was talking to some of the coaches is, there were some like cramping issues and hydration issues, and you kind of see that all across the board, even for like NFL players.
Yes.
Without having preseason games, you're seeing, a lot of these athletes that are having a hard time, getting into that mold of, okay, I'm in a full blown season now, but I didn't really have a lot of preparation before it. At least not what they're used to having. So. The
mask. Are they wearing masks on the field? Football.
They're supposed to, and that was the one thing like today for like our first meet is the kids had to wear them up until they got into the starting line. They had to have the mask on for warm-ups. They had to have the mask on until they went in. But as soon as the starter got them ready is when they could take them off. For football, it's supposed to be, and you start seeing this happening like in the NFL where they had coaches being fined for not having their masks. I mean, some huge fines. But I mean, it's supposed to be a thing where like if fans don't have them on, if coaches don't have them on, if at an event you halt play until that happens. Which I'm curious to see if that happened in any place this past weekend with some of the football games, but you're supposed to technically, all spectators, coaches, and then players not playing are supposed to have masks on.
Interesting. And I think running with a mask on would be tough. I think my buddy coaches South Lyon and Jeff Henson, and they've got, like the hockey players, like they have a spit shield.
Yep.
You know, that they have placed over the face mask. Now it's just tie strapped on there, you know, but still, it helps. You know, it's got to help some. You know, they're supposed to wear their mask, and they've got it set up where the mask will be, you know, under the chin strap, but the spit guard's got to help too.
Yeah.
You know, that way, I always thought, why couldn't you use a hockey mask, you know, when they're out there playing football? That because they wear the full shield in hockey, there wouldn't be any face masking if you had a full shield like hockey.
That's true.
You break a kid's neck grabbing that face mask accidentally. But as my chiropractor says when he crunches me, you know how hard a bone is. You know how hard that is to break. I say, you ever worry about doing that and screwing me up? He's like, no.
Right. Yeah, you wonder how it's going to be for some of these other sports too. The fact that the kids have had to wear them. You know, I mean, it's you're seeing that soccer they've had to, volleyball. I mean, the only one that, you know, they don't have to have it on is like swimming, or when the kids are running for, you know, you see them for like cross country. But it's definitely an adjustment for some of the kids that you're seeing that have to do this.
That whole swimming thing, you know, it's okay. We'll just let it float in the pool.
Right. You wonder how many kids like forget to take it off, and next thing you know, they jump in, and the mask goes one way, and you know, and they're going another way.
That'd be interesting. I did see some pictures of the volleyball, and they all had them on. You know, it's got to be different with not a lot of people in the stands, and but we're trying to, you know, there's 200,000 dead people. You know, let's let's try to keep it at 200,000. You know,
Yeah, and you're seeing some schools being affected, and there were some schools we were talking about at lunch today that couldn't play their games because of, you know, some of the cases they've had. I think it was either Novi or Brighton or one of those schools couldn't play their game this past Friday. So you're seeing it affecting some of the teams too. I mean, you know, imagine getting ready for a whole week, and then Thursday night you get a call and say, well, we're not playing on Friday because we've had, you know, numerous cases.
Right, and Notre Dame's not playing this weekend.
Correct. Yep. And
because they had 7 or 10 cases. That's it's so hard. I mean, at the school level too, staying on the bubble. You asked how my daughter was doing earlier before we got on. You know, she's up at U of M. You know, she's in her dorm. They get notifications all the time. Positive test, floor 1. Positive test. They're taking those kids, and they're sticking them in a quarantine dorm.
Right.
Okay, and from what I understand, they're not that well furnished.
Yep.
You know, so you know you gotta, you know, don't bring anything home, honey. That's, you know, all I can say.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being careful with things, and you know, and one thing about that Notre Dame that's really surprised me, because I was watching that game this past Saturday. They had a lot of fans in the stadium.
Yes.
Like, I was really surprised by how many fans. I mean, you know, up until this past week, like NFL games, you only had like 2 stadiums that actually allowed like up to maybe 7,000. And I was watching a Notre Dame game, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of people, more than I would imagine for a college game. And
it'd be interesting what they can't, probably because of Whitmer's laws, they can't do it outside at U of M. But Ann Arbor's got their own set of rules. They always have. And but yeah, 7,000 you can stay spaced out. You know, 30,000 you can't, even though the place holds 100. Yeah, we're in strange times. Looks like the Tigers' run is over. I was watching some of that. They're just a bad team. The Lions, we can talk a little bit about them. We have like 4 minutes left to go. You know, the game before, I watched some of it. I thought it came down to a couple of plays. But the Green Bay game, it came down to SOL. The way I look at it, SOL, same old Lions. We get the ball, got all our timeouts. We're going to move it down the field. Now, way back, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, when they get the ball on their own 20 or 25, their first play is just a little dump 5 yards. Dump 5 yards. They'll 5-yard you to death because you're letting them. Not us. We step back in the pocket. We're holding the ball for 8 seconds. And next thing you know, we're sacked on the 1-yard line. You know? Then we get a penalty, stops the clock. And then we get 2 personal fouls after we kick the ball away. That's just the same old undisciplined football team that I gave up my season tickets for when they went 0-16 because can't take it anymore. I found other things to do on a Sunday.
Yeah, it was frustrating watching that game. You know, they played pretty well early on, and then it just seemed like the defense kind of like fell apart. You know, when that first play that Aaron Jones ran in the second half there, you know, for the most part, almost untouched. It looked like both safeties kind of crashed on him, but they took horrible angles, and he kind of just was gone. And
I missed that. I was flicking away because the U.S. Open was on in golf, so I was watching that, and then I flicked back and I said, "Oh, they scored already."
Yeah.
You know, they just got the ball back.
Yeah.
I didn't know how they scored, and then I found out later. And then we get the ball, and then it's a pick six the other way. And man, oh man.
Yeah, it went from 17-14 Green Bay in the end of the first half to being 24-14 and then 31-14 in like the first 5 minutes of the third quarter. And you're like, okay, it's over. As much as, you know, you think that they have a chance with it. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the Lions, I mean, I'm not a Lions fan, but you watch them because they're always on TV, but you just don't know what that cure is for what's going to ail them.
There is no cure. And the players gave up. I mean, let's face it, then you're into survival mode. You'll go to next week, play hard.
Right.
You know, this game's over. And I don't blame them at all for doing that. Their salaries are such that that's their living.
Right.
You know, so why are you going to bust your butt when you're down 17?
Yeah.
You know, unless you look like you're going to win. Don't forget to get a hold of us, localsportswrapup@gmail.com. You can watch us on YouTube. Just go to Local Sports Wrap Up on YouTube. You can pick up a bunch of past episodes. Well, I got the word from Ken Montroy that he liked the show last week. I'll have to see how he likes this show because we're being rated, people, by Ken. He's still able to watch, and he's still doing just okay. I won't say fine because we know he's not fine. But he's still there. I talk to him every couple days, you know, see how he's doing. I know you knew Ken for a long time. They bowled together 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's why I was telling Marty before I came on here. I said I actually knew Ken and his brother back in the day. I worked at a place called Clementi's in Lincoln Park, which has been gone for about 10 years now. But they had a 6-lane bowling alley, and we bowled at an old timers league. I was in my early 20s, and you got to imagine Ken was probably maybe in his 30s at the time, and his brother. And we bowled in this league Monday night, and that's how I got to know him. So that's why when he you know, he showed up one day at our practice when I was coaching, you know, a few years ago with Marty. And I'm like, how do you know that guy? He goes, oh, he was like best man at my wedding. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, I've known him for years. But just one of those small world downriver things where you get to know somebody. And, you know, he loved the Packers, I love the Steelers. So we always had that comment of disliking the Lions. So that was the one fun thing that we had.
All right. So as we wrap up, next week will be Ken Brown's turn again. We're going to float these two guys through. Then I can quit and they can take over the show all by themselves. See, that's the way. Wear your mask, people. Local Sports Wrap Up on YouTube, Local Sports Wrap Up at Gmail. If you want to talk to us, you want to call us out, you want to blame us for something, we'll take the hit. There it is right there. So I'm Marty Janeski along with George Purdu. Catch us next week, Local Sports Wrap Up. Thanks for watching.